thesis, discussion. I've got down here the subtitle of wisdom because the discussion goes back to wisdom, so to speak. If we look at the discussion asks, how does what you did and got as results relate to the literature that you cited? You did your literature cited, you said this is the problem, this is what everybody's looking at, this is what we need to go. Now, I've got to take my results and relate it back to what was in there. So therefore, we are talking about how does what I have relate to everything else? Did you find similarities? In which case you support what things have already said in the past. Did you find differences? In which case you are talking about how what you got differed, and when you got differences, then you've got to be able to explain, why did these differences come in? Does this change the knowledge that you've got in the past, or am I looking at something different? When we do a discussion may contain figures if they help explain something. So we're talking about wisdom. We're not talking about knowledge. We're talking about wisdom. How do you go beyond what is already there? This is a part of the discussion that I had in my thesis. And basically what I did was I took the information, I turned it around, I interpreted it. And it says leaf vigor curve for the second leaf of bentgrass plants. Note that the 3 stages of vigor, juvenile, mature, and senescence. It also notes the time at which the 3rd, 4th, and 5th leaves emerged and the chlorotic striations began to occur. The equation for the curve appears in Table 1A. Bandwidth depicting the chlorotic striations expresses relative frequency. So we're looking at the second leaf. We're looking at the juvenile stage, the mature stage, the senescent stage. It shows when the 3rd leaf started to come out, when the 4th leaf started to come out, when the 5th leaf started to come out. And then you look at the striations, and it shows that striations increased over time between these days after planting and what we've got. We're talking about explaining what we had in relationship to what was already observed. So therefore, this goes back to wisdom. It shows that you looked at it, you thought about it, and you came out with something that became important. It may contain literature if it helps explain something. If you got results that are contradictory to somebody else's result, you go out and explain, mine were different than his, and why. So it's an explanatory process. You're looking at wisdom. There is no requirement to document explanations in the discussion. So you come out and you did something and you came up with something. You believe that this shows this. You don't have to document it, show it's already there in the past. No, this could be a new explanation, and therefore you don't have to document these things. You can say pretty much whichever way you want to interpret things in the discussion. It does not necessarily need to be documented because it's you're discussing what you got versus what was already out there. When you're dealing with the discussion, put it in the language that the reader can understand. You can say all sorts of marvelous things, but if you put it in a language that nobody understands, nobody's going to pay attention to it. So make it in a language that people can understand. When you're doing your discussion, what's your target audience? Go out and make sure that this is targeted towards them, targeted towards people that will understand this particular sort of thing. So that becomes very important as well. Go back and review inconsistencies within the argument. You made an argument in the beginning. Now you're going to go out there and you're going to talk about it. So therefore you have to look at what might be inconsistent with that argument, and therefore you can go on. So all of that becomes part of the discussion. Therefore, the discussion comes in and it talks about what you've got in here and which way you look at things and what you can come up with what you're dealing with. So discussion. You discuss what you did, you discuss how it varies from the literature, and you discuss why it's important.